Alright folks, it is Matthew. We are back. I'm back in Grimsborough once again for another case in Elite Mode. Let's do the Lake's Bride. Case 27.
Know where he is? I don't even know who he is. The deal is time sensitive, Dana. Eric needs to turn himself in. He doesn't know where to begin to look. Hey, find out that
Sheriff Matthew, you're called up at the lake. A car has been pulled from the deep waters. Ramirez, I know littering is punishable by law, but don't you think you're wasting Sheriff Matthew's time? It's not just a car. When it got pulled out, the trunk opened slightly and there's something inside. Something all white and dead looking. So I told them to stop everything and I ran back here to get you, Matthew. You did the right thing. Matthew, let's go to the lake.
Used to be
48 is my ranking. I'm going to be want to be up in the top 10.
That's my fault too. No, it isn't. My son is sexually stimulated by children. I can't understand that, can you?
Seaweed. Plane. Victim's body.
Over and over. The past
Torch.
in my mind.
Shell. Butterfly. Not my best score, but hey. This was about a year ago that I was doing this.
What did I do?
But as you can see, my energy is about 25,000.
Dana, you didn't make your son a pedophile. That's what he is.
So our victim was called Mary Gray. She looks like the heroine in a tragic novel. Look at her white dress. It's almost as if she was going to get married. Let's send the body to the lab. Hopefully Nathan will be able to tell us what that poor woman died from. Let's see what else we've got. A pile of algae fell from the trunk when they opened it. We might find something in there, you're right. And what about this bunch of soggy, torn papers? Do you think he can manage to piece it back together without everything crumbling down? Sheriff Matthew, a woman wants to talk to you. She says she's your victim's sister.
Hey.
Looks like a rough night, anymore.
Guess I was wrong. I thought she would lead us straight to him.
She's just being careful.
She's an emotional wreck, Finn. People like that don't think, they act.
I like your party.
Okay.
Elliot told me not to say anything when he says that he trusts you.
Well, this time he should. Oh, now we did it, but the man showed restraint.
36 hours.
What are you talking about?
You know, the bastards like Berlin.
And I'm going to grab some stars. I'll be right back. But first, I'm going to make a bit of a change here.
If that was my kid, I would have done it.
Going with the Dalmatian so I can at least get up further in energy. So I'll be right back, guys. Sit tight. Alright, folks. I got me some stars. Now, let's talk to Liz Hopkins first. Mary was my big sister. I recognized her car at the lake. She's dead, isn't she? We're very sorry for your loss, Mrs. Hopkins. The most tragic thing is, I'm not completely surprised. I always knew Mary was too much of a dreamer for her own good. How can dreams kill someone? Well, Mary had always been waiting for Prince Charming. She would have followed any man, just as long as he acted like a gentleman. She seemed to have met someone recently, actually, but she wouldn't give me a single detail about him. She said I would spoil everything, as if I cared. Let's see what's in the seaweed. Aha, scales. Matthew, I agree. The scales you found in this pile of algae don't look like any fish scale I've ever seen either. That color can't be natural, can it? Look, there's a fisherman over there. Maybe he could tell us what kind of fish this comes from. Floyd Russell. Alright. Now let's talk to Floyd Russell. Do you think your investigation is going to last long, Sheriff? That spot where you found the lady's the best fishing spot. Sorry to be intruding on your fishing. Should we remind you that this is a murder investigation? Of course. Tragic what happened to her. Must have happened during the night, too. I've been fishing here every single day for 40 years. I'd have noticed a car sinking in the lake. Actually, we found those scales in the victim's car. Do you know what kind of fish this comes from? I'll be damned. This doesn't come from just any fish. These scales belong to the creature of the lake. The what? The creature of the lake. It's a mythical monster that's been living in the lake since, well, forever. I can't believe you've never heard of it. How long have you been living here? Few are the ones who have seen it, but sometimes in the deep of night, you can hear its mournful wail as it calls to people, trying to lead them to the water. Great, another loony thinking a mythical creature is a suspect in a murder investigation. I never even heard about that creature before. Mind you, not that I would have paid it any attention. Well, that makes two of us, Jones. Oh boy. Oh, was that a hassle? Oh, great. You managed to piece those soggy bits of paper back together. You really can do anything, can't you? The water got to those letters badly. Let's send them to the lab. Maybe Alex will be able to make sense of all that blurred ink. One hour. Alright. I'm going to let this thing at least run its course, and I'm going to grab... Oh no, actually, yeah, maybe I better go and get some more stars. Sit tight, folks. Alright, folks, we're back. Let's get the results of the letters first. Well, that was a challenge. The letters you found on the crime scene were so soggy I almost gave up, but I finally managed to clarify the text on some of them. They're all addressed to the victim, but there's no sender's name, unless your lovelorn stallion is a name. Mary must have cherished those letters, and yet we found them torn to pieces. Whoever killed her must have some serious issues with love. Her correspondence certainly didn't seem to have any. The very last letter I could find told her, "I am waiting for the day we finally meet with bated breath. I will be running all the way to the yard sale, my beloved." The yard sale? Oh, you mean that annual thing when people sell the stuff they don't want to other people who don't need them? I guess so. This year's sale started 2 days ago and is still going on. Perfect. Our victim must have had a stand there. Let's go have a look, Matthew. I managed to get every star here, as you can see. Bingo! Over there. This stand is registered to Mary Gray, our victim's name. Let's have a closer look at what she was selling. I'm just going to put on a Hinter's fine, just in case, because it's been a bit. Need to know where the clues are. Newspaper. Alright. Our victim was hoping to sell a lot of things in this yard sale. Can I have a look at the scrap of paper you found, Matthew? This is a newspaper advert from the Lonely Hearts column, but half of it is almost erased. Maybe you could clarify everything for us, Matthew. Classified ad. So this Lonely Hearts ad you found was actually published by the victim. She was hoping to meet new people. Lonely dreamer looking for her white knight. If you like poetry and watching the stars, write to me and let us share our dreams. Poor Mary. I wonder if anyone replied. Sheriff? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what are you doing looking at Mary's things? You knew Mary Gray? Then Sheriff Matthew will have a few questions for you, sir. Thomas Benson. Mary's dead? But how? By whom? She was loved by everyone. We've been friends since we were teenagers. Mary was the nicest woman I know. Always a kind word for everyone. Do you know anything about that ad she placed in the Lonely Hearts column? I told her this was a bad idea, but she said her soulmate was somewhere and that this ad would help her find him. I know that at least one man did reply to her ad. I saw him. He came to see her at the stand just yesterday. Could you describe him? I guess so. He looked like he was out of a romance novel. Long brown hair, blue eyes, and a rather feminine mouth. Thanks to the description Thomas just gave us, we should be able to find who is the man who came to visit our victim at her stall. Let's have a look at the Central Police database, Matthew. We're looking for someone with long brown hair, blue eyes, and a feminine mouth, whatever that means.
So what now?
Well, I was thinking you should read some of the mostly fan letters. Some of it's kind of weird, threats and stuff.
Where's the mail?
It's in Houston, but I can have it on a T-38 at Ellington Field in a couple of hours, and it'll be here tomorrow. And so, in the meantime, well, I don't know about you two.
Okay.
I'm with Corliss. I could use a drink. So I'm at the Mousetrap in Cocoa Beach, having a beer with Pete Conrad when one of the bar gals comes up to us. She's crying, and she says Nixon just canceled the last 3 flights, which means I just lost my right to money.
So what'd you do?
Amazing job, Matthew. You managed to find a suspect who matches Thomas's description to a T. Our mysterious man is called Alexander Vladinsky. He was arrested 2 years ago for stealing roses. Well, let's bring this Mr. Alexander to the station and see if he was the one who replied to our victim's Lonely Hearts advert.
Finley is heading up passes on the 18, and I would have been the youngest guy back in 74. Now I'm the oldest, but, you know, as long as I get...
Let's talk to Alexander Vladinsky.
So how did you meet anyway?
Are you telling me my sweet Mary is no more? My heart. I knew I had felt my heart breaking this night. Okay, you were Mary's lover, is that correct? Not in the crude way you're meaning it, I'm sure. Mary and I were soulmates. She was the person I had been waiting for my entire life. When I read her ad in the Grimsborough Gazette, I knew instantly that she was the one. She was the moon to my sea. Did you and Mary exchange letters? Letters aren't enough when your heart meets its match, Sheriff. I had no time for words. I went to see Mary as soon as I could.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Okay, I'll get the remaining stars and let the autopsy run its course. See you for that. Alright folks, we're back. Let's get the results of the autopsy. I'm happy to say that this time, your victim's cause of death couldn't be any more obvious. She drowned. So she was still alive and the killer drove her car into the lake? Most definitely so. She's got a few bruises. The killer must have knocked her out so that they could place her in the trunk of the car, but her lungs are filled with water. Stuck in the trunk of a car, surrounded by rising water. This must have been a very lonely, very scary death. I found something else on her body as well. There was a letter pinned to her chest. It reads, I have taken my due, I am appeased, but my anger shall never completely disappear. I have taken my due? What could that mean? Can you make sense of it, Matthew? I can't either, but here's one very interesting thing. The letter was tacked to the victim's chest with a stamp hinge. It's an adhesive flap exclusively used by stamp collectors. So our killer is a stamp collector? Who would have thought those people could be violent murderers? You know, Matthew, I keep wondering about that note Nathan found on the victim's chest. I have taken my due, I am appeased, but my anger shall never completely disappear. What could this possibly mean? It means my theory is correct. Ramirez, you have a theory about our murder? Yes, I looked at the archives in the Grimsborough Gazette, and this murder has happened before. What? It's the truth, Sheriff Matthew. Let me tell you a story. Well, we're going to hear this story in Chapter 2. Alright folks, it is Matthew. We are back playing Criminal Case on Facebook, Grimsborough, Case 27 in Elite Mode, The Lake's Bride. So let's get to Chapter 2. What do you mean, Ramirez? This murder has happened before. How could our victim have been drowned twice? She wasn't killed twice, but somebody else was killed just like her. 50 years ago on a dark and stormy night, a car was driven into this very lake. The victim was a woman called Sybil Price. They never found who the killer was. It's believed that the creature of the lake took her life. Oh, there we go again. But it's true. There's a creature in that lake. There is even photographic proof. Look. All I'm seeing is a blurred blotch in the middle of the fog. How does that prove anything? I'm telling you, every 50 years the creature comes back to the surface of the lake to take its toll. 50 years ago it kidnapped its victim on the borders of town. What if it happened the same way this time, Sheriff Matthew? Don't you think it might be interesting to have a look there, just in case? You can see I'm ranked in the top 20, but I would like to be ranked up in the top 10. Aha! Mary Gray. And the glove. 3 clues in here. Cool. Well, I'll be damned. Ramirez's theory was correct. Our victim has been here. This keychain you found has her name on the tag. So Mary was kidnapped here, then taken to the lake to be drowned? What else did you find, Matthew? A claw? It's huge. What the? You're right. Let's have a closer look at it. And this glove is covered in some kind of scales. They look exactly like the scales you found near the victim. Ha! Creature of the lake. As if. I can't believe anyone would be crazy enough to disguise themselves as the creature. Let's send this glove to the lab, Matthew. Sheriff Matthew, they told me to wait here. May I have a word with you, please? It's about my sister. Of course, Mrs. Hopkins. Sheriff Matthew will be right with you. 12 hours. And I'm gonna grab the remaining stars first, so I'll be right back. Okay then, I got the rest of the stars here. Up to a ranking of number 10. So let's examine the claw first. There it is. It's a good thing the claw you found on the outskirts of town is so freakishly big, Matthew. You managed to collect tons of fingerprints off of it. Let's give them to Alex and see who it belongs to. Oh, that's also an hour. Now let's see what Liz Hopkins has to say. Sheriff Matthew, I discovered that my sister intended to sell all her things and leave Grimsborough forever. The fool must have been bamboozled by someone. I told her putting that ad in the newspaper would make her a target for maniacs. I don't mean to be rude, Mrs. Hopkins, but you do not seem to have thought highly of your sister. Just because we're related by blood does not mean we could relate, you know. Mary always complained about being lonely, but who would have looked twice at such a wallflower? She should have settled for what she could get. Love is overrated anyway. I've got money. I'm the mistress of my house. My husband provides for me. Love has got nothing to do with any of it, and yet I'm happier than my sister ever was. I like things ordered and clear, like stamps on their board. Mary wanted romance, and look where it led her. Matthew, if our victim intended to sell everything she owned, then we'd better have another look at her yard sale stall. Let's go. Aha! A box. Sticky note. Dart, butterfly. Clock. Toast. This tiny box is chock full of junk, but if someone can find the proverbial needle in the haystack, it's you, Matthew. I see it. Stamp, plus 18 energy, great for me. The stamp you found in this box looks pristine, apart from the postal ink. And look at the picture, romantic. Matthew, you're right, this stamp must come from one of the letters Mary kept. If you can retrieve DNA from it, we'll know who sent those letters to her. Great job, Matthew. You managed to collect DNA from the stamp you found in Mary's stall. Quick, let's send this DNA to Grace. One hour also. Alright, I'm gonna grab the remaining stars. I'll let the fingerprints and the DNA run its course a bit. And when I do, I would have had some higher rankings, hopefully. And I will also have all the stars collected from this crime scene. So I'll see you guys for that. Alright folks, it is Matthew. We are back. Let's get the results of the fingerprint sample. I think this one will run out. I compared the fingerprints you found on that claw you picked up on the outskirts of town with our database, but I shouldn't have bothered. Why? You couldn't find a match? Oh no, I could. It's just that it would have been quicker to compare the prints with your suspect straight away. The claw you found on the outskirts of town belongs to Floyd Russell. What is our lake creature expert doing with such a thing? Let's go ask him about this claw, Matthew.
That's one of the most fascinating things about the case, from my perspective.
See, it did run its course. Let's talk to Floyd first. My claw! Sweet mother of Jesus, you found it, Sheriff Matthew. I was worried sick about it. My grandfather ripped off that claw from the creature of the lake, you know. Said the only way to hurt the creature was with this claw, so I always carry it with me. If you say so. Sheriff Matthew found this claw right on the spot where Mary was kidnapped, Floyd. Of course that's where you found it. I lost it trying to save that poor woman from the creature. I'm sorry, are you telling us you saw the kidnapping? Why didn't you say this earlier? Why, you didn't ask me about it. See, I was on my way to the lake when I saw the creature attack someone on the outskirts of town. I didn't even think. I rushed towards the creature and struck its face with my claw. It pushed me away and I fell unconscious. When I came to, the creature was gone, and that woman as well. I'm starting to wonder if there is anybody sane in this town apart from you, Matthew. I wouldn't even be surprised if Floyd was delusional and he was the creature of the lake, but I guess you don't have enough proof to arrest him. Still, he said he'd struck the creature with his claw, so our killer must have scratches on their face. Let's write it down, Matthew. DNA results. So I analyzed the DNA you found on the stamp your victim kept in her stall. It was badly damaged. The stamp must have been licked a while ago, but through extrapolation and partial reconstruction, I managed to get a DNA sequence big enough for comparison. Matthew, this stamp was sent to your victim by Alexander Vladinsky. So he was corresponding with Mary. Let's go bust his chops, Matthew.
It was very special. Almost a friendship.
Let's talk to Vladinsky. He has scratches too. Mr. Vladinsky, Sheriff Matthew has found your DNA on one of the stamps Mary kept. And yet you had told us you had never written to Mary, that you wanted to meet her straight away. I'm terribly ashamed, Sheriff. I knew in my soul I should confess, but my heart took the lead. You see, what I had with Mary was pure and true. I know she would not have wanted our love to be the subject of scrutiny. For many months, Mary and I poured our hearts onto paper. I handpicked the most beautiful stamps from my own collection, for Mary deserved the best. You must understand, Sheriff, Mary was everything to me. I would have never hurt her, ever. He's in the running now. I'll let the glove run its course. I'll see you for that. Alright folks, we're back. Let's get the results of the glove. That's a mighty strange glove you found on the outskirts of town, Matthew. I did not know scales were in fashion this year. They're not. We think our killer must have dressed up to avoid being recognized. They definitely did. I found DNA from your victim on the outside of the gloves, and none of it inside, which confirms this glove was worn by the killer, and I found something else inside it. Dog hairs. So our killer is in contact with dogs? Thomas Benson has a dog. He was carrying it in his arms. But you're right. We know someone else has a dog and hangs around the outskirts of town. Matthew, let's go have a talk with James Savage, the local huntsman. Let's talk to James Savage. Let me see if I'm getting this straight. You say I'm a suspect in another murder investigation just because I've got a dog? Calm down, James. Sheriff Matthew just wants to know if you knew our victim, Mary Gray. I just saw her around the market from time to time, that's all. Never really talked to her. But I did see her with someone yesterday. She went with them towards the outskirts of town. I wouldn't be surprised if that was her killer. How convenient that you saw that. I'm guessing that you didn't see that person's face, of course? No, I didn't. But I'm not a hunter for nothing. That person Mary followed, even from afar, I could tell they were bad news. They were acting like Mary was their prey. Ah, such a pity what happened here. This lake is so peaceful. I can feel the fresh air clearing my thoughts. Can't you, Matthew? And just saying, I still can't see any trace of that silly creature Ramirez and Floyd keep talking about. Did something just move over there in the fog? Cower, mortals. What the? Grimsborough PD, freeze! We'll go to chapter 3 next time. Alright folks, it is Matthew. We are back playing Criminal Case on Facebook, Grimsborough, Case 27 in Elite Mode, The Lake's Bride. So let's get to chapter 2. What do you mean, Ramirez? This murder has happened before. How could our victim have been drowned twice? She wasn't killed twice, but somebody else was killed just like her. 50 years ago on a dark and stormy night, a car was driven into this very lake. The victim was a woman called Sybil Price. They never found who the killer was. It's believed that the creature of the lake took her life. Oh, there we go again. But it's true. There's a creature in that lake. There is even photographic proof. Look. All I'm seeing is a blurred blotch in the middle of the fog. How does that prove anything? I'm telling you, every 50 years the creature comes back to the surface of the lake to take its toll. 50 years ago it kidnapped its victim on the borders of town. What if it happened the same way this time, Sheriff Matthew? Don't you think it might be interesting to have a look there, just in case? You can see I'm ranked in the top 20, but I would like to be ranked up in the top 10. Aha! Mary Gray. And the glove. 3 clues in here. Cool. Well, I'll be damned. Ramirez's theory was correct. Our victim has been here. This keychain you found has her name on the tag. So Mary was kidnapped here, then taken to the lake to be drowned? What else did you find, Matthew? A claw? It's huge. What the? You're right. Let's have a closer look at it. And this glove is covered in some kind of scales. They look exactly like the scales you found near the victim. Ha! Creature of the lake. As if. I can't believe anyone would be crazy enough to disguise themselves as the creature. Let's send this glove to the lab, Matthew. Sheriff Matthew, they told me to wait here. May I have a word with you, please? It's about my sister. Of course, Mrs. Hopkins. Sheriff Matthew will be right with you. Hours, and I'm gonna grab the remaining stars first, so I'll be right back. Okay then, I got the rest of the stars here, up to a ranking of number 10. So let's examine the claw first. There it is. It's a good thing the claw you found on the outskirts of town is so freakishly big, Matthew. You managed to collect tons of fingerprints off of it. Let's give them to Alex and see who it belongs to. Oh, that's also an hour. Now let's see what Liz Hopkins has to say. Sheriff Matthew, I discovered that my sister intended to sell all her things and leave Grimsborough forever. The fool must have been bamboozled by someone. I told her putting that ad in the newspaper would make her a target for maniacs. I don't mean to be rude, Mrs. Hopkins, but you do not seem to have thought highly of your sister. Just because we're related by blood does not mean we could relate, you know. Mary always complained about being lonely, but who would have looked twice at such a wallflower? She should have settled for what she could get. Love is overrated anyway. I've got money, I'm the mistress of my house, my husband provides for me. Love has got nothing to do with any of it, and yet I'm happier than my sister ever was. I like things ordered and clear, like stamps on their board. Mary wanted romance, and look where it led her. Matthew, if our victim intended to sell everything she owned, then we'd better have another look at her yard sale stall. Let's go. Aha! A box. Sticky note. Dart, butterfly. Clock. Toast. This tiny box is chock full of junk, but if someone can find the proverbial needle in the haystack, it's you, Matthew. I see it. A stamp, plus 18 energy, great for me. The stamp you found in this box looks pristine, apart from the postal ink. And look at the picture, romantic. Matthew, you're right, this stamp must come from one of the letters Mary kept. If you can retrieve DNA from it, we'll know who sent those letters to her. Great job, Matthew. You managed to collect DNA from the stamp you found in Mary's stall. Quick, let's send this DNA to Grace. One hour also. Alright, I'm going to grab the remaining stars. I'll let the fingerprints and the DNA run its course a bit. And when I do, I would have had some higher rankings, hopefully. And I will also have all the stars collected from this crime scene. So I'll see you guys for that. Alright folks, it is Matthew. We are back. Playing Criminal Case on Facebook. Case 27 in Elite Mode in Grimsborough, the Lake's Bride. 2 stars to unlock it. Unlock Chapter 3. Cower Mortals. What the? Grimsborough PD. Freeze. Ha! Damn it. It dives into the lake. Matthew, we need to follow it. Whoever they are, let's get our scuba gear and dive after it. I'm gonna change dogs here. The creature dives into the lake, Matthew. We need to follow it. Are you ready to go underwater? Then let's go. Oh, there's the... Oh, I see the bracelet. Damn it, the creature has vanished. I mean the person dressed as a creature, of course. I don't believe in it, huh? Anyway, whatever this is, it's covered in the same scales as the glove you found on the crime scene. If only you could manage to piece it back up. Sheriff Matthew, I would like to talk to you. It's about Mary's killer. What the? I'm sorry, but what are you doing here, Mr. Vladinsky? Why, I can't see where my poor darling Mary, where she... Well, you understand why, don't you? I'm gonna grab the remaining stars in the underwater crime scene first, before I go on. Alright, I got the remaining stars here. Let's examine the torn suit. Excuse me. There we are. Boy, did that take a long time. A diving suit covered in scales. So this is the creature of the lake. We need to send this suit to the lab. Matthew, we're finally getting close to catching Mary's killer. $12. Alright, let's talk to Alexander Vladinsky. Sheriff Matthew, I know you must be very busy trying to find Mary's killer, and I thought I might be able to help. Mary had often mentioned a man she was scared of, an old friend who kept following her around. I urged her to get a dog to defend herself. I've got a German Shepherd myself, just to keep safe. There are so many unbalanced beings in the world. But she would not listen to me. She said she was just being paranoid. What if she'd been wrong? Did she mention who that man was? She said he was an old flame of hers, whose love she had never returned, a certain Thomas Benson. So Alexander owns a dog. Oh, and I've heard that Elizabeth also has dogs. She even breeds them. Is everyone in this town a dog person? What about goldfishes? They're great pets. I can't say I trust our Casanova a great deal, but every lead is worth investigating, you're right. Let's go talk to Thomas again and see if he was really stalking our victim. Now let's talk to Thomas. I do not care what anyone told you. I would have never stalked Mary. I respected her. Why didn't you tell us you loved her? I did not think it mattered. She did not return my feelings. She never did. I would have offered her the world if only she'd let me, but she never even gave me a chance, even though she kept saying she was lonely. Anyway, the only reason I even went to the yard sale was to find new stamps for my collection. It wasn't to stalk Mary. Like I said, I would have never ever hurt her. I mean, I know you'll laugh, but I even named my puppy after Mary. Now little Mary's all I've got left. You know, our suspects are starting to get on my nerves. Between the one who thinks there's a creature living in the lake, the reincarnation of Casanova, and the lovelorn friend, I think I need a change of scenery. Let's go back to the outskirts of town, Matthew. Dilapidated road. Okay. Let's investigate. Alright. Let's see. Cigarette. Rope. Oh, basketball. Tomato. Fuel can. Oh boy. Broken metal and gold wrench. Not my best score, but I'm trying. A broken metal. Once again, you strike gold, Matthew. Do you think you can repair it? We need to know who it belongs to. I'll examine it right now. My tablet is low. Aha, 15. Mary Gray. So this metal belongs to our victim. She must have lost it when the killer knocked her out. Let's have a closer look at it, Matthew. Three. Wow. Aha! Another 15. Skin cells. I cannot believe you managed to collect skin cells from that metal, Matthew. But even if Grace can analyze it, they'll just come back positive for our victim, won't they? I guess you're right. Better wait and see the results. This one's 12 hours also. Alright, I'll get the remaining stars here, and I'll see you guys for that. Alright folks, we're back. Now I know the new case is out right now, so I'm gonna just speed this up. I'm gonna speed them both up. I never saw a suit quite like the one you found in the lake, Matthew. Whoever made this is quite crafty. Unfortunately, they're also quite cautious. I could not find a single hair, a single skin follicle. The water washed everything away. Everything except some mud. Well, Matthew found the suit in the lake, so that makes sense. You misunderstand me, Jones. This mud was trapped between the two layers of the suit. It was there before the suit was disposed of in the lake. This means that whoever wore the suit got his clothes stained when he put it on. And because they've just taken the suit off, they still have a mud stain on their clothes. Matthew, let's add this to our killer's profile. And this one. Matthew, I applaud your good sense. The skin cells you collected from Mary's medal didn't belong to her. What? So her killer touched the medal? But how? They were wearing a suit. Oh, you're right, Matthew. They lost a glove in the same location, so they must have touched Mary's medal with their bare hand. Exactly. Working on such delicate cells takes time, and I'll need a few days to give you a complete DNA profile. But we can't wait a few days. But because I know you can't wait a few days, I already have this one deduction for you, for what it's worth. Based on a very rough DNA profile, I can tell you that Mary's killer has got blue eyes. Well, this is it, Matthew. We have once again proved that science beats superstition. Let's go put our so-called creature of the lake behind bars, shall we? It's not Floyd Russell. Sorry guys, things stopped on me for some reason, probably because I just turned it on. It isn't James Savage. It is Alexander Vladinsky. Alexander Vladinsky, you are under arrest for the kidnapping and murder of Mary Gray. I can't believe you saw through my ruse, Sheriff Matthew. I had spent a lot of time creating that creature costume. I thought it would fool anyone. I just wish I hadn't lost Mary's medal in the grass. I planned on keeping it, a little souvenir, you see. I don't get it. You kept saying you loved Mary. You sent her all those romantic letters. Why did you kill her then? Love, passion, murder. Those are all so similar, aren't they? Murder can be the greatest form of desire. I don't even know what to reply to that. And what about the costume? If it was a crime of passion, why did you disguise yourself, huh? But for the romance, of course. Can you picture it? Mary, alone, waiting for me in her white dress. The creature, creeping up behind her, kidnapping her to take her to its underwater lair. Can you imagine anything more romantic? I am sure Mary would have approved. You? Sheriff Matthew, can you put the cuffs on this madman before I lose it? Alexander Vladinsky, you are brought before this court to answer for the murder of Mary Gray. What do you have to say for yourself? I loved Mary. Shouldn't one be allowed to show their love whichever way they see fit? Not when it involves them locking the object of your affection in the trunk of a car and leaving them to drown. Well, I could not hold my breath long enough to drown her. I had to find another way, you know. The car seemed practical. I will not hear another word from you, Mr. Vladinsky. You obviously feel no remorse for your crime or even seem to understand why you were wrong. This court hereby condemns you to 30 years in prison, and I will recommend that you are followed by a psychiatrist during your stay. Court is adjourned. Some days I can't help but think it's dangerous to fall in love in this city of ours, Matthew. Mary trusted her heart, like many of our victims, and it led her to the same tragic fate at the hands of a maniac. It's not always easy to be the one dealing with those dark minds. I don't know how you manage to keep your cool, Matthew. I'm not as strong as you. Let's go back to the station, shall we? I could use a cup of coffee and some sugar. Alright, taking a look at the rest of them. Thomas Benson, he has brown eyes, not blue. Floyd Russell, clear from the start. Elizabeth Hopkins, doesn't have a mud stain. James Savage, cleared from the beginning. So I'll see you guys for the additional investigation. Alright folks, we're back. Let's start the additional investigation of Elite Mode, Case 27, The Lake's Bride. Sheriff Matthew, congratulations on a job well done. I'm glad you exposed the faker. All those talks about the creature of the lake were fascinating. I heard Floyd Russell started guiding tourists around the lake. He knows everything about the real creature. Oh, come on, Ramirez. This creature is just a myth. Why are you still talking about this urban legend? Sure, Jones. Keep believing this. Now, Matthew, can you come to the lake tour with me? I have a lot of questions to ask Mr. Russell. Hey, Matthew, when you're done with Ramirez, I'd like to check on Thomas Benson. He's a nice guy. I feel sorry for him and his puppy. We should talk to him a little. Sheriff Matthew, there's a problem with... Oh, I'm interrupting. Sorry, but I'll need to talk to you quickly, Matthew. I'll wait for you over there. I'm going to talk to James first. Because he's already here. So, James, what's the matter? It's pretty rare to see you in town. Are you and your dog alright? Don't worry, I'll be back to the forest soon. My dog's fine too, but I didn't come here to chit-chat. Sorry, I just mean... Well, I could use your help, Sheriff Matthew. There seems to be some hurt animal out of town, but I can't find it. I was just passing by the outskirts of town when I heard some cries. An animal is probably hurt and stuck somewhere. We can't let it die there, right? I trust your skills, Sheriff Matthew. Could you help me search the place? No problem. Firefly, monkey, sinkhole. A sick fox. James was right, Matthew. Aw, poor fox. It seems really weak. Maybe it hurt itself. That wouldn't be surprising with all the littering here. I don't see any wounds, though. Maybe it's sick. Can you inspect it? We must find out what's wrong with this poor lad. Wow. Insects. Those insects you found on the fox's fur don't look like ordinary fleas, more like mites. I'm worried, Matthew. Our little guy seems really sick. Grace knows a lot about animals and insects. She'll be able to tell us what those are. $6 hours, but I'm going to speed this up. Matthew, those insects you brought me are very interesting mites. That fox is lucky you found it. It probably felt lost, so close to the city. Mites? I knew those weren't fleas, so what did those mites do to our fox? They're sarcoptic mange mites. They transmit the mange disease, or scabies, to mammals such as foxes or dogs. It makes their skin itch a lot and causes their fur to fall out. The discomfort they cause it must have rendered your friend here unable to eat correctly, hence its current weakened state. But now it just needs some medicine to kill the mites and some rest. It's a young fox, so it'd be best if it had someone to make sure it doesn't run away before being cured. I can't really take care of a wild animal at home, but I bet James knows a lot about foxes and their habits. I think you should ask him to watch over the fox. Seems like a good idea. I know the new case is out right now, so I'm going to be speeding everything up. I'm not going to be waiting. Here's the fox you heard at the outskirts of town, James. It caught some mites, and they gave it the mange disease. Apparently it made it too uncomfortable to eat properly and really sick. Mange mites? Yeah, I've already seen animals infected with this disease. Adult animals are usually strong enough to get over it, but this one is young. Did you treat it already? Yes, we gave it a treatment, but it needs calm. And it'd be great if you could watch over it to make sure it really rests. You know more about foxes than us, after all. Oh, are you giving a fox to a hunter, Sheriff Matthew? You do know what's my job concerning those animals, right? Just kidding. Don't make that face. This kind of fox is an endangered species. I'd never hunt it. Don't worry, I'll take care of this fox until it is strong enough to go back into the wild. 200 XP coming my way. Okay, let's check up on Thomas Benson now. Hello, Thomas. We came to make sure you were holding up alright. So how are you? That's very nice of you, Sheriff Matthew. I still have trouble realizing Mary's dead. We've known each other for so long, though I have to admit having my puppy helps a lot. Actually, I have a problem. I have to bring little Mary here to the vet in a short while. She's supposed to be vaccinated. But Mary's family will come to take her things from the yard sale soon. They gently agreed to let me have Mary's fairy tale book, but I haven't found it yet. It was her favorite book, so I want to read it to my little Mary. I'm sure she'll share that love for fairy tales and happy endings. Aw, that's adorable. You know, Sheriff Matthew's an ace when it comes to finding stuff. Just bring your puppy to the vet. We'll stay here and find that book for you. Alright, stall shells now. Ooh. Aha, red suitcase. Clover, garlic, fishbowl, bell, dead leaf, coconut, butterfly, boomerang, candles, toast, flower, and the saber. Not my best score, but I already have this case mastered. I'm already in second place. Alright. You're as quick as ever, Matthew. The book Thomas wanted must be in this suitcase. I think this is the fourth one. Let's examine the suitcase now. Aha! Fairy tale book. Perfect. You were right as usual, Matthew. This fairy tale book was in the suitcase you found. I love Thomas's idea of reading Mary the dog's book to human Mary. Wait, it's the opposite. Reading human Mary's favorite book to Mary the dog. It sounds better, right? I'm lost at these two Marys. Anyway, Matthew, you know what I meant. Let's bring this book back to Thomas. Let's give the book to her. Thomas, excuse me. Hey Thomas, we found the fairy tale book you wanted. I hope your puppy will like them as much as Mary did. Thank you so much, Sheriff Matthew. I would have really been miserable if you hadn't found it. You can bet little Mary will love these tales. She's just as beautiful and gentle as Mary was. They would have gotten along so well. Isn't she the cutest puppy ever? The vet said I should enroll her in the dog pageant, and I think he's right. I'm sure she can win. Please don't hesitate to come cheer for her. Please, let me cook you something as a thank you, Sheriff Matthew. Oh, well, thank you very much. Another burger. I got a burger on the Wheel of Fortune earlier. Now let's talk to Floyd Russell. Hello, Sheriff Matthew. To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit? Do you want to take my lake tour? Actually, Mr. Russell, I'm very curious about the creature of the lake. See, I did some research and I have a few questions. Has the creature made many victims? Of course there was. The creature has attacked the people living here for decades. Every 5 or 6 years, someone mysteriously vanishes. The media are requested to keep it quiet, but it's true. I knew it. I knew the creature of the lake existed. If you're so interested, I have printed some pamphlets explaining the creature's story and all the evidence of its existence I collected. I had one left. Damn, it must have fallen from my bag. It was my last one. Do you think you could help me find it? It has to be around here. Aha, I see it. Ugh. Mr. Totem. Gondolier. Turtle. Carrot. Ruler. There we are. This lake is huge. I'm glad you found something so quickly, Sheriff Matthew. You're probably right. This shredded paper seems related to the creature of the lake. I really can't make anything from it in its current state. Do you think you can restore it? There we are. What was just torn paper looks like a shiny new pamphlet now. I'm starting to think you're more of a supernatural being than the creature itself, Sheriff Matthew. Let's go back to Mr. Russell. You were quick, Sheriff Matthew. This is indeed my last pamphlet. I'm glad you found it. By all means, keep it. You seem so interested in the creature, Officer Ramirez, and this is the most reliable source you'll ever find. Nobody knows about it. Nobody knows more about it than me. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Russell. I'll read this pamphlet thoroughly. I'll probably come back to ask you questions, though. I want to know everything about the creature. It'd be a pleasure to discuss it with you. And Sheriff Matthew, I've had a great idea to attract tourists. I plan to sell creature costumes. That's a good idea, isn't it? I'll soon be able to start a little themed gift shop. Here, since it's all thanks to you, Sheriff Matthew, I'm giving you my first costume for free. And I'm going to have I'm actually going to have 5 burgers here. This is awesome. Great for me to begin this. Alright, that will do for this case. And I'll see you guys for the next case in the World Edition. See you all later.